Alcivet carved out time from his schedule and took Dia for a walk through the palace grounds. He had been so consumed by affairs of state that their only contact had been through letters. This was the first time she had seen him since he had become emperor, and he wanted to keep her close for as long as he could. He led her through the imperial palace with barely concealed enthusiasm, pointing things out, explaining things, his voice carrying the particular energy of someone who very much wants to share something they are proud of but is trying to appear merely informative. This was to be the 7th consort's palace. One wall and the floor of the newly constructed building were inlaid with diamonds, catching the light and scattering it even from a distance. A rueful smile crossed Alcivet's lips. The people of the empire knew the 7th consort as a woman of extravagance, a woman who had reveled in luxury at the emperor's expense. But this palace had been the former emperor's will alone, built against Ira's explicit and repeated objections. He had seen the Western Duke's carriage once and been seized by some competitive jealousy he'd never articulated. And so he had built this, and left all the blame for it to rest with her. The public had accepted the story willingly. They had buried her as a woman who had finally answered for her excesses, and returned her to her hometown. What do you intend to do with it? Dia's soft voice brought him back. I was thinking of giving it as a gift to the future empress. He glanced at her with exaggerated casualness. What do you think? Excuse me? The expression on Dia's face was so perfectly horrified that Alcivet laughed outright. I'm teasing. I'll have it demolished and redirect the funds to the imperial treasury. A much wiser decision. He shrugged at the approval, but something in him was quietly pleased. He had received countless expressions of respect from the nobility since taking the throne, formal, careful, strategic. Her recognition of him felt entirely different from all of that. Dia, why did you come by the palace today? You said you'd been meaning to tell me something. Oh, right. She smiled with complete composure. I'm going to the west. I wanted to let you know before I left. Alcivet looked at her with wide eyes. She had planned to remain in the capital. She caught his expression and smiled. I want to attend my uncle and Lady Marin's wedding. Ah. His eyes on Dia were full of something wistful. I want to go with you. Dia smiled brightly. I'll accept that feeling. We should get married soon as well. I'll accept that too. With the late emperor's state funeral only just concluded, a formal imperial wedding would have to wait at minimum 6 months. Why do you keep only accepting my feelings? Take the rest of me too. Alcivet said it with the petulance of someone who knows he is being gently managed. Dia laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of her. Dia placed her hand on her beloved emperor's arm and rose to her toes. She leaned close to his ear and whispered, just loud enough that everyone nearby could hear perfectly. Isn't your majesty already mine? The smile that appeared on Alcivet's face was helpless and entirely genuine. Dia lowered her heels and looked down quickly, the warmth rushing to her face before she could stop it. Alcivet looked at her flushed cheeks for a long, quiet moment. // A week later, the group set out for the Duke's castle in the west. The journey back was livelier than the departure had been. Rihanna traveled with them now, and Pan, who flatly refused to ride inside a carriage, had to be accommodated with an oversized robe and the freedom to run alongside it. Fortunately, Pan's size came with corresponding strength and agility, and she kept pace with the carriage without apparent difficulty. Time passed, and the familiar shape of the Duke's castle appeared on the horizon. Among the household staff assembled in front of the main entrance, Sebastian took a step forward. Welcome home. Yes, we're back. Marin smiled her brightest smile and greeted him with everything she had. / come in. Marin answered without looking up, her nose buried in wedding budget documents. Elmies, stationed at the library door, checked the visitor. Mississippi. The pastry chef has sent the wedding dessert selections. The head maid stepped aside, and the maids filed in one after another, pushing carts. At first glance, each cart held upward of 30 individual confections. Marin looked at the desserts with the expression of someone who has just been handed a very large problem. Tell me that's all of them. I apologize. There are 2 more carts to follow. The head maid delivered this information politely and without any hesitation whatsoever. Marin looked at her with quiet desperation. How am I supposed to taste all of this by myself? You taste and then spit. Marin stared at the head maid. Then she looked at the carts. Gold-dusted muffins. Castilla cake layered with snow-white whipped cream and finely chopped strawberries. Chocolate-covered eclairs on crisp pastry. Soufflés risen to improbable heights. Every dessert had been prepared with extraordinary care. They all looked genuinely wonderful. There had been a time when she had looked at sweets like these and thought only someday. And then I'll be ill for a week. No. Marin spoke with conviction and immediately began looking for someone to share in this ordeal. Elmise, she noticed, had been edging with great subtlety toward the far side of the door. Marin pinned Elmise in place with a look and turned to the head maid. Is the bride really expected to taste all of this herself? The head maid, who had been answering every question with brisk certainty, chose this moment to exercise her right to remain silent. Her gaze shifted fractionally to one side. Marin stared at her. The head maid's composure faltered by the smallest degree. In truth, most brides don't eat sweets at all in the days before their wedding. They worry about, then why am I? His Grace gave the order. The head maid closed her eyes briefly and told the truth. Marin clicked her tongue. She had known. She had known it was going to be something like this. Who, exactly, told him I'd lost weight? She looked around the room. Elmise dropped her gaze to the floor with sudden deep interest in the carpet. The head maid looked at the middle distance. I have simply lost my appetite while preparing for the wedding. Going forward, please tell Gerard that I look perfectly healthy. Plump, even. Glowing. The head maid's brown eyes held a carefully maintained neutral expression. I apologize, Mississippi. They were both completely inflexible people. I won't even be able to see Gerard until the wedding day anyway. He's simply going to have to accept it. There was a Western tradition that the bride and groom did not see each other for the week before the wedding. Given that he won't be able to see you until the ceremony, the head maid said, with the serenity of someone who has won, His Grace will naturally want to ensure you're well cared for in the meantime. Marin nodded with the resigned expression of someone acknowledging checkmate. Fine. But don't tell him I'm too thin. Yes, Mississippi. Only then did a small, satisfied smile appear at the corner of the head maid's mouth. Marin looked up from the cart of desserts with a suddenly hopeful face. Come in. Elmise opened the door. Rowena walked in. Mother. Marin jumped up and went to her, then stopped as Rowena's eyes landed on the carts. What on earth is all of this? Wedding desserts. Mother, you're here at exactly the right moment. Taste them with me. Oh goodness, I just had tea and cake. I couldn't eat another thing. Rowena's apology was genuine and deeply apologetic. Marin's face fell like a soldier conceding a battle. There's nothing to be done. She looked at Rowena with renewed attention. But what brings you here? You said you wanted a moment? Yes, I know you've been so busy lately, but could you spare a little time? Of course. The weather is beautiful, shall we walk? Are you sure you have time for a walk? Rowena asked with careful hesitation. Marin had been out at dawn and returning after dark every day since the wedding preparations had begun in earnest. Absolutely. The head maid attempted to intervene with her eyes. Marin did not see the eyes. Elmise, Marin said, gathering her things and Rowena's arm simultaneously, would you please taste each of those desserts carefully and take thorough notes while I'm gone? Elmise's dark blue eyes flickered considerably. Then she answered without hesitation. Yes, Mississippi. Marin stuck her tongue out at Elmise behind her back, and walked out of the library with Roanna.